Hey folks, George here back again. Sorry I missed last week. It's kind of tied up with deer season here in central Iowa. Unfortunately did not bag anything, but that's kind of how it goes. If you guys hear any screaming or yelling upstairs, my kids are kind of misbehaving, so I just kind of have to live with that. But back again for weeks 10 and 11. I'm just going to give you guys, try and make this one pretty quick. Last couple of weeks, I've actually been doing a lot. First things first, on the finished side, we've actually finished the Forge Lord based off the Iron Hands Iron Father. I've got this mounted on a 32 mil base instead of the 40. Forge Lord can't actually take Terminator armor, but I figure he's a Forge Lord. He's just got a really fancy suit of Artificer armor. So he's got his Power Fist there, his Volkite Caliber. Yeah, no, Volkite Charger. Yeah. So Cyber Familiar up here, the servo arm and everything. So also rad grenades on the back. Thank you, Tom Stallard. Other projects that are currently in progress, of course, the jet bikes. So here they are, not a whole lot done. These actually just got another wash today. So, whoa, that was close. Kind of cinched my nutsack there a little bit. So yeah. So I'll start doing highlights up on the metallics here and start working those together. And that's going to have those done probably sooner rather than later. Thanks to Chris Pretty from TFL 30K, the Forgotten Legion 30K down in Texas. Hooked me up with not one, but two apothecaries. So I've got the Mark II and the Mark IV. He originally just said pay him, for postage. Well, he said I could just buy him a beer. So I'm going to have to find a way to get some beer to good Mr. Pretty down in Texas. So I've been doing up the Mark IV. Originally I wanted to do the Mark II, but decided to do the Mark IV. I could get a little bit more work in it. It's actually missing one little piece. It's actually missing the chainsword arm, but I had enough laying around that wasn't a big deal. And then actually stuck a little word bearer helmet underneath his foot. That was pretty cool. And this, of course, since it's part of the Big Boyfriend Squad, goes on a deck plated base, so 32 mil like that, just like the Forge Lord, Gilliman, and the Suzerain are going to be. That's one thing that I do need to figure out is if I want to rebase my chaplain. Not entirely sure, but we'll see. So I've been moving along with this. It's taken this just sort of the standard color scheme of the army. Did give him a white helmet to signify he's an apothecary, white shoulder pads as well. Didn't want to do an all over white armor. Thought that might stick out a little bit too much. And I don't really like painting white. So decided to do this. Had a little fun with it. The shoulder pads actually painted separately. They're glued on now, but did a zenithal highlight, starting with a black primer, then some, what color is it? Cold gray from Vallejo Game Color, and then I think it's ghost gray. Yeah, ghost gray. And then just overcoated the whole thing with white. Turned out pretty well. You can't see it all that well. It's kind of washed out because of the lighting in my shop. But it's coming along pretty well. White helmet using the same color, except I gave him a black wash, redid the base coat, built up from there. Still need to give him an edge highlight. Working on painting. Let's see if I can get it close enough. You guys see all the little vials and jars and stuff he's got all over. Just working those up with some glazes. They're not going to look that great, but it'll be painted and everything. A little bit of gold trim, of course, the red loincloth he's got here. So that'll be cool. The reason I actually pulled off two new shoulder pads. I really want to use those Ultramarines apothecary decals to come on the decal sheet. So that's why I decided to do that. So I think that's going to look pretty cool. Actually got a Damocles Command Rhino. And as well as parts for another Demos pattern Mark 1C Rhino. So those will be coming along here shortly. The Damocles is actually part of the list for hashtag Bout with the Route, which is what this is all about. So I'll get started on that probably this week. I still need to get the parts washed up, and then we can start prepping, as if I don't have enough stuff to work on already. So of course the big one, the ASRAM, I haven't actually really assembled anything. It's all just like paint work and prep work. Big thing here, I started working on locating pins for the side nacelles, the booms, as I like to call them, so drilled those in. My reasoning is, if for some reason this thing is never in my possession and someone wants to try and take this apart and redo it, I'm going to make it as painful as possible. So what I have here is some 1/8 inch brass tubing. That will actually act as a pin for the nacelles. It doesn't always like to go in. These holes are the proper diameter. It's just some of these have had pieces cut off. So I mean, that's a pretty substantial pin right there. So that's going to be pretty cool. And I've obviously done that to both sides. And then you probably can't see it, but there's actually like a 24 thousandths. See if you guys, yeah, you can kind of see that, a 24 thousandths hole there for another piece of brass wire to pin the front. I can actually hide that behind some of those mechanisms in the front. So it's like the more structural stability I can get to this, the happier I'm going to be. It's a solid resin kit, so I want to have as much reinforcement as possible. So I'm actually going to break out the 2-part epoxy to glue this together. One other thing, you can see the cross hatching all along here. I like to do that when I've got really big pieces that need to be put together. And I think, let's see, this one here has got the same cross hatching for the glue. So basically these are going to go in together, trying to maintain as much of certain geometries as possible, particularly this little bit back here. I want to try and maintain that as much as possible. It doesn't match up on the other side, but I should be able to fix it. So, excuse me. Then glue's applied. These pins will work in. These big rod pins or tubing pins will work in, hold it very securely in place. And then I've still got access to everything from these holes here. So yeah, things are really starting to come together on this actually. One other thing I need to do, I've been trying to get the doors to sit properly like I mentioned in the last video. So this one I actually had to fill in that gap, fill in where the original hinge pin was, or the original hinge hole was, fill that in with green stuff, sand it down, and then I'll put in a new hole. The door was just ever so cockeyed. I wasn't happy with it. It's like, I'm gonna do this right, so we're gonna fix that. Also had the thought I could have just used some resin that I had laying around, some Alumilite. Well, that shit went to shit years ago. I've had that for 6 years probably. So toss that. We're just going to go with the green stuff route. Ended up redoing this about 3 or 4 times because the green stuff just wouldn't set. I had my proportions wrong. I think I'd know that after talking to Jack. So anyway, working on that. Got to figure that out. Still need to prime the interiors of the doors. But here's kind of the big thing. I actually have LEDs inside one of the booms, and it's going to be ready to go and get glued in place pretty soon. I need to figure out what to do about this still. You can see, obviously, there's a light here and a light here, and we run the wires kind of along the side there. The resistor is actually glued in place. It doesn't look too bad when it's closed up. I actually had to move it because it was interfering with one of the spars from the other side. And I did not do a very good job organizing these wires, but no big deal. So let me give you guys a quick demonstration here. Try to get this try to get the power source off camera as much as possible, and I get the lights going. So, okay, so there you can see lights are going. You can see, it'll be like that. I've also got the bulkheads painted, mocked up, and in place. So there's that way. Now it's going to be a matter of, there's going to be a lot of kind of tight, confined spaces when it comes to actually assembling this, but I think it's really going to not be too difficult, and I think it's going to look really cool, and I think it's going to be completely worth the effort in the long run. So, yeah. Why is that still not matching up properly? Okay, so I've encountered some fit issues with this last day or so. Okay, so here we go. I will give you guys the best view of this that I can when I go to do this. It's kind of tricky trying to organize all of this, but there you guys go. So that's looks pretty good. You can kind of see the resistor up there, and when they go into the bulkhead, it's not too bad. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. This is really coming along. One other thing that I did, I forgot to mention this. You guys remember I talked in the last video, I wasn't happy with the flight stand. So we have a new flight stand. This is a piece of 1/2-inch brass tubing. Actually bored this out with a 1/2-inch drill bit. It looks kind of bad right now, but I think it's actually gonna work out. That slots right in there. Pretty sturdy. It's definitely a lot back heavy. You know, it wants to go to that side. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to stabilize this on the base. Probably just gonna get some foam core, not foam core, but like insulation foam, like R23, the rigid stuff, and make probably something that comes up to like right here, like a big mountain or remnants of a building or something like that. So, but the other benefit that's going to give me is I didn't bore it up far enough so I can still up to here, so I can still run my wires down through here. This will be detachable. I'll have the female end of my 2-pin connector at the top of this, and I'll probably just like use a bunch of hot glue to seal it up in here, but with enough that I still have some motion, so I can actually just pull the wires out of this, plug it in, pop it in here. And I'm also going to leave some space in the bottom of this so that I can run the wires down through the bottom of that to the switch and as well to the battery. So that's going to be pretty interesting project here coming not quite, sorry guys. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting couple of weeks. I've got a pretty good feeling about my abilities to get this all done in time for #bout with the route. Yeah, so we'll just kind of keep chugging along. But yeah, so wanted to get you guys another video out since it's been a couple of weeks. Should be probably recording another episode of SMWG by myself tonight, so you guys have that to look forward to as well. So again, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.